Good morning, church. If you are hungry and have money, you have the opportunity to go to Subway and order a Subway sandwich. The outer bread may be the same for all sandwiches, but you can choose to have meat or bacon or chicken or turkey or tuna as the interior ingredient. The sandwich may look the same on the outside, but the interior ingredient will determine its taste. Mark's Gospel has this element of insertion in its reading today. He has the story of the absolute faith of the woman with the issue of blood, embedded in the larger story of the raising from death of Jairus' daughter. Scripture scholars call this insertion intercalation. I choose to call it the sandwich effect. Let me read it to you. It's from Mark's Gospel, chapter 5, verses 21 to 43. When Jesus had crossed again in the boat to the other side, a large crowd gathered around him, and he stayed close to the sea. One of the synagogue officials named Jairus came forward. Seeing him, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him, saying, "My daughter is at the point of death. Please come lay your hands on her, that she may get well and live." He went off with him, and a large crowd followed him and pressed upon him. There was a woman afflicted with hemorrhages for 12 years. She had suffered greatly at the hands of many doctors, and had spent all that she had. Yet she was not helped, but only grew worse. She had heard about Jesus and came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak. She said, "If I but touch his clothes, I shall be cured." Immediately her flow of blood dried up. She felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Jesus, aware at once that power had gone out from him, turned around in the crowd and asked, "Who has touched my clothes?" His disciples said to Jesus, "You see how the crowd is pressing upon you, and yet you ask, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see who had done it. The woman, realizing what had happened to her, approached in fear and trembling. She fell down before Jesus and told him the whole truth. He said to her, "Daughter, your faith has saved you. Go in faith, go in peace, and be cured of your affliction." While he was still speaking, people from the synagogue official's house arrived and said, "Your daughter has died. Why trouble the teacher any longer?" Disregarding the message that was reported, Jesus said to the synagogue official, "Do not be afraid, just have faith." He did not allow anyone to accompany him inside except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And when they arrived at the house of the synagogue official, he caught sight of a commotion, people weeping and wailing loudly. So he went in and said to them, "Why this commotion and weeping? The child is not dead, but asleep." And they ridiculed him. Then he put them all out. He took along the child's father and mother and those who were with him, and entered the room where the child was. He took the child by the hand and said to her, "Talitha cum," which means, "Little girl, I say to you, arise." The girl, a child of 12, arose immediately and walked around. At that they were utterly astounded. He gave strict orders that no one should know this, and said that she should be given something to eat. The synagogue official, Jairus, asks Jesus to help for his daughter. And on the way to his house, a woman who has her own need for help, an issue of blood, approaches Jesus and believes that if she just touches him, he can cure her. She touches his clothes and is instantly cured. Jesus turns to see who touched him. His disciples think he's been unreasonable to ask who touched him, since he's being pressed on all sides. But he continues to seek her out. She finally falls down before Jesus and says that she's the one. He tells her to go in peace because her faith has healed her. And when they continue to Jairus' house, the family come to meet him and tell him that it is too late, that the girl is already dead. Jesus then tells Jairus that he must have faith. Jesus and the mom and dad approach the child. Jesus takes her hand and says, "Talitha cum," the same words used in early Christian baptism when the new Christian was called forth from the waters of baptism. And the girl rises up. What Mark wants us to realize is that faith can make the difference if we take the issues that arise in our lives and bring them to the Jesus story of death and resurrection. The God who reached out to his son Jesus is now reaching out to you and to me. For myself, I realize that at the age of 81, I no longer have the energy and drive that I had years ago. I cannot ask that my life be reversed. I'm simply asked to take the life that is given to me at this moment, and in faith, realize that the God who reached out to Jesus, his son, is now reaching out to me, his son, and offering me my own unique cross and resurrection. The plan that Mark puts before us is the call to faith as we face the complexities of life that come our way. As a Christian community, may we be inspired by our Christian faith that is offered to us. God bless you all.